So today's session, digital, anything or everything, because the way I see it, you can literally use digital to do just about anything. And for some people, we're out there using it to do everything. But depending on who you are, what you do, what your experiences are, what you're hoping to use digital things for, that's the reason as to why I wanted to make it a little bit sort of flexible. Because what we don't want is people being herded into you've got to do everything online, or you've got to do everything digitally, or feeling that you have to know everything before you can do anything at all. So I've called it anything or everything in the hope that we can sort of figure out which bits you want to do. And then if you need help to get to where you want to get to, then there's somebody there that can help you with that. So I'm going to click share my screen. No, actually, before I do that, I'm going to click polling. Oh, okay. Right, so I've done a quick questionnaire. We've just got 3 questions on it. So for you to sort of pick which things you think you normally do. I've described that really badly. So hopefully in front of you now, you can see a poll. And it's just got 3 questions on there. And I'm going to apologise for the weird noise. I've got a CD stuck in my computer, and every now and again it tries to eject itself, and it does it very, very noisily. So I'm just going to apologise up front if Justin Timberlake tries to make his escape during the session. He does it with pretty much every video call I've been part of for the last 12 months. So I feel that once lockdown's over, one of the first jobs I'm going to have to do is take it and get it fixed. Okay, that's quite good. So we've got kind of quite a few different things on the go there. It just helps me to kind of try and get a little bit of an idea about the things that you normally do. So we've kind of got like a 50-50 split between sort of using laptops or desktop computers versus using like phones or tablets to do things with. I'm glad to see that nobody's terrified, because that's good, because there was a whole series of digital training programs a few years ago called Computers for the Terrified, because my mother-in-law went on it. And I'd hate to think that there's people sort of like that scared, but it is genuinely a thing, because why would you know how to do something if you've never needed to before? So that's really good to get an idea of sort of where we're up to. So I'm going to click that box and hope that was the right thing to do. So I'm going to share a presentation. The reason I'm sharing it as a presentation is because firstly, I talk quite a lot and I talk quite fast. So I find that if I've got a presentation in front of me, firstly, it stops me going off to tangent land and sort of adding extra bits and bobs. So hopefully you can see the screen, front of the screen of you should be able to see digital, anything or everything. So I can see we've got a lady joining us now. So hopefully she's in here and she can see what we've got on the screen now. Okay. So today's plan is a whirlwind tour of digital and how you can use it for anything or everything. And also how you can get started, because sometimes if there's something that you don't do at the moment that you'd like to know how to do, well, it's usually helpful if you've got that little starting point. So this is me, as you can see, wearing a different hoodie to the one that I'm wearing today, but 90% of the time you will see me in a hoodie. During lockdown, that's moved up to 95% of the time. So if you want to make notes, that's fine. If you want to use your computers throughout, that's fine. But I will send you a copy of all the slides, which should have all the key bits in, and I'll try and stay on topic. So first question, kind of what do we mean by digital? Because that was definitely one of the terms that, because I work in technology, saying digital is really, oh yeah, we're in digital, I work in digital, I work in tech, but doesn't necessarily mean anything. to a lot of people. It's just another term that maybe they don't understand. And the stems of the word, it stems from the word digits, it comes from numbers, and that translates into binary, and that's how computers understand things, blah, blah, blah. It's totally not what people generally mean. But when day-to-day meanings, when we talk about digital, what we actually mean is just doing things with a computer. Now, I've put computers in commas because maybe in the 90s, if you wanted to do something online, so the internet's been around since 1970s, but about the 1990s was when people who weren't already computer scientists started doing things. But back in the day when we got our first computer at home, it was very much an actual desktop computer that was sat there with a keyboard and a screen. These days, we go on the internet, I do it on my phone, I do it on tablets, I can do it through the TV. So when we talk about doing things with a computer, even doing things by a computer doesn't necessarily involve a computer anymore. Now, one of the brilliant things about digital is that it gives people choices and different ways to do things. During lockdown, we've got people holding essentially face-to-face meetings, but using digital as a way of doing it. And the idea of that is brilliant. It gives us a choice. So in the old days when I wanted to tax my car, I used to have to spend my dinner hour queuing up in the post office so that I could sort of tax the car with the bits of paper and go to the window. Now I can just go onto the DVLA's website and I can just do it online. It's brilliant that we have that choice. The only time it isn't brilliant is when it doesn't give a choice. So when things move online, but they don't actually necessarily teach people how to do these new things, or when people have to do things online and maybe they don't have broadband at home, or maybe they don't have a laptop that can do the things that they want to do. So in theory, it's brilliant and we've got all this choice, but there's a lot of people out there who are being kind of herded over against the will. So that's where people like me come in, to try and sort of offer help to people who are perhaps starting to do things digitally, starting to use the internet, starting to get online. So I'm a member of something called the Online Centres Network. So if you want to learn how to do extra things, I can actually help you do that. And there's online centres up and down the country. Even here in Stockport, there's like probably at least a dozen. So because digital is everywhere and you can use it for absolutely everything. Okay, Annie still can't hear anything, Simone. So I'm just going to mention that. So because digital is everywhere and we can use it for absolutely everything, it's really important that people kind of know how to do things. So we kind of did this poll beforehand and we looked at what things do you already do with digital. So we talked about things like shopping, being able to research things. There's lots of different things that you can do. Even things like watching the TV. You don't necessarily need a television anymore to watch TV. There's lots of different things that people do, and you get to do them using the internet these days. So for me, I'm using digital all day, every day. If I'm awake, I'm probably connected to the internet. I use it for work because my day-to-day job is that I build websites and I do digital training. I do it when I'm just messing about, if I'm talking to my friends, if I'm on social media. For education, if you're researching things, if you're doing sort of like any kind of learning, the internet is now a very big part of it. And those of you who've got sort of school-age children, that's you really can't escape the fact that education is very, very sort of a key part of education now. And even outside of the classroom and outside of the learning. So my youngest is at high school. So there is an app for me to put top up her lunch money. So if I wanted to buy food during a school day, there's an app for that. If I want to know what homework she's got, there's a different app for that. I have a third app where schools send me messages about things that have happened at school. All of her homework is set online. She has to log into things to do things. Even if you really, really wanted to try and avoid doing things online, modern sort of UK society is not making that easy. And one of the other things that it could be really useful with is for things like health. So for example, with my doctor's surgery, instead of ringing them at 8 in the morning and being on hold and waiting to try and get through and book an appointment, I can go onto their website or the NHS website and I can book appointments, I can renew prescriptions. But also, if you think that, oh, actually, let me see whether or not I need to take my child to A&E, or whether or not that rash on your husband's arm looks a bit ropey, you can go on the NHS website and look at that. But also, if you've got a medical condition or somebody that you care for has got a medical condition, you can often do a little bit of research and find out information. So digital is absolutely everywhere and being used for absolutely everything. So these are some of the things that I can help people with. So things like being able to shop online, how to learn how to hang out with your friends. So using things like video calling, which obviously we're all doing right now, but also things like if you want to use social media, but you're not sure, that's something that I can sort of help people with. If you're interested in doing online banking, that's another thing that I can help you learn how to do. So the village that I live in, when I first moved here, I think there was 5 different banks, completely different high street banks. And even though we're a small village here in Romley, you could walk into 5 different banks and you could deal with the ladies behind the counter. Yeah, we're now at the position now when all of those branches have closed. So here in Romley Village, there isn't a single high street branch. So I can go into the post office counter and I can do some things, but I can no longer just walk into the NatWest and talk to somebody from that bank about my account. Studying, as I mentioned before, things like accessing public services. So if you're dealing with the council or if you need to claim benefits, these are all things I can help you do. And also, if you want to know a bit more about Netflix or how to stream music online instead of perhaps relying on your collection of CDs. Although as a person who owns hundreds of CDs, I don't see the problem, but that might just be me. Now, these are some of the things that I can point you towards. So free digital skills training, and I've put in brackets human included. Now, everybody learns in different ways. So for some people, they prefer to read about things. Other people like to have videos. Usually people like to know what it is that they need to do. But then if they've got questions, sometimes it's nice to have a human being involved that you can say, actually, I'm a bit stuck here, or am I doing this right? Or if you come up with another question. So that's really where the human included comes in. But also I can introduce you to platforms where you can just sign in and go about it completely hands-free with no extra humans, but it means that there's somebody there if you want to. There are lots of free resources on the internet to learn new things. The internet is kind of the best and the worst thing about the century that we're in. But there is so much information in there. There is so much resources. There's historical information. Anything you want will be on the internet. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of stuff on the internet that we don't want, but let's focus on the good bits for today. But also I can introduce you to networks for people who are interested in working with digital in the future. So people tend to think, oh, that means sort of the writing code or web development. Also, there's a whole host of different industries in the tech industry and different types of jobs and different types of work. And a lot of them don't necessarily involve writing any code or using a computer in a particularly complicated way. So things like user experience. So one of my children asked me what user experience was. And the way I described it to her was I said, well, you know, when I'm using my computer or I'm using a tablet and I'm sat on my iPad, and then I start muttering and snarling under my breath because I can't do what I'm trying to do, it usually means that the experience of the user on that particular website or that platform wasn't very good. But there is an entire range of people who do things like service design, where they choose how different systems are going to work. So even if you're not interested in writing code, it might be you're still interested in working in tech. And there's a whole host of industry out there. There's networks of people doing things. So anything and everything is sort of available. And even if I don't do it, I can normally find you somebody else that does. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to introduce you to are some of the different platforms. So I'm just going to stop the share at the moment. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone can still hear me, because I'm not seeing any of the Zoom things.
Yeah, we can hear you, but you have stopped screen sharing.
Okay, right. Let me just see if I can get back to where I was, because it's not letting me get back, which is a slight worry. Okay, give me 1 second. Has anybody got any questions? That's the first thing. So if anyone's got any questions, if you pop them in the chat and Simone will read them out to me, or you can unmute and ask me. Okay, has anybody got any questions? No, we're doing okay at the moment?
Yeah, I have, Claire, sorry. Are you going to be covering Zoom at all?
I can do if you've got questions about Zoom.
It's only one really about a background, because
Okay.
I know how to put a background on, but when I went to do a presentation, I couldn't get the background. I could in the mock, but when I came to do it live, I couldn't get it. So it's only that.
Right. Okay, right. Well, the thing with the backgrounds is sometimes they vary. So, for example, I've only got like the basic ones, because it wants to have a particular, like, what they call like a green screen, so that it gives you a really sort of clear picture. Because I remember being on one and I had a background and it was all made of post-it notes, and then as the light changes, it got darker. I just disappeared into the post-its. It was very, very weird. Let me see if I can find the bit in here, because usually the backgrounds, you get to them through your Zoom account. So you go into your settings and find them. But
so what I did, Claire, sorry, I took a photograph, or I downloaded the company I was working with, their logo, and I wanted to have their logo behind me.
Yeah.
So, and like I say, when I did the mock,
it worked fine.
The logo was there, but when I came to do the actual presentation for the company, couldn't get the logo up, and I don't know why.
Was it still on your Zoom account, or was it?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I know.
Oh, I think we've got somebody trying to get back in. I'm not sure, but let me test that out for you.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can do that bit.
No worries. Thank you.
Cool. I'm going to make a note of it so I don't forget. Right. I'm going to screen share again, but this time I'm going to share some different websites so that you can actually see the sites rather than just the backgrounds. Okay. So fingers crossed it doesn't have another wobble. Okay. Right, so can you all see my screen? Yeah, okay. So the first one, this is the first site, and this is called Learn My Way. Now, Learn My Way was originally designed for people at the very beginning of their digital journey. So perhaps, for example, people who hadn't used the internet before, or who hadn't used it perhaps without help, or weren't very confident. So a lot of the initial things were really about using your computer or using your device. So you can see here at the bottom, we've got a range of different subjects. So when it started off, it was very much using your computer. So even if you'd never used a keyboard before, or you've never used a mouse, or you were using a tablet for the first time and weren't used to using a touch screen, there's actually help there to help you do that. So if you've got friends or family who want to be able to do things, this is a brilliant resource for that, because it literally starts assuming that you have no knowledge. So when it very first started out, the idea of sort of like the online centres and using Learn My Way was that people would go to a physical online centre and they would have somebody like me in the room with them. So if you've never used a keyboard or a screen before, having somebody in the room is probably really helpful. Obviously at the moment that absolutely isn't a thing, so people have had to adapt and try and do things in different ways. And one of the most difficult things that I've found is remotely teaching somebody how to do things remotely. So once you've got somebody there, you can talk them through things and you can show them things, but those very first steps are quite difficult if you've got to try and teach them how to use Zoom before you can teach them anything else. So Learn My Way is really good in terms of the fact that it has all these different things. So when it started, it was things like using the internet, and also people understanding kind of what the internet was and the different things that you could use with it. So things like filling in online forms. It happens so standardly now that people just throw out online forms, which is fine once you're used to doing them. But if you've only just learned how a mouse works, and then someone gives you an online form and tells you to get on with it, that's not the easiest way to do it. Now, over time, Learn My Way is adapted to make it more useful to more people. So it includes things like online banking. It has like an introduction to that. And it's a general introduction that would cover regardless of which bank you're with. So if you're with Barclays or with NatWest, although there'll be little things that are slightly different, the basics will be the same. So Learn My Way was introduced to do things like that. Improving your health online, so things like the NHS website, being able to book those appointments. All of this information is on here. It's all completely 100% free of charge. So even if it's not something that's useful to you, if you know of other people, or maybe you've been trying to help somebody else learn how to do things, it's a really useful resource for things. Now, one of the things I'm involved in is the Wave of Change programme. So that's helping ladies who are unemployed at the moment. And for some people, their digital skills are one of the things that they want to work on. But for some people who are perhaps wanting to maybe change work or get back into work if they've had a break, things like office programs. So it might be if you want to change your career, if you've never had to use like Excel or Word or PowerPoint before, there's an introduction on here. And although it doesn't say it's based around Microsoft's programs, Microsoft is the big one. And if you work for a really big employer, like somebody like the NHS or Royal Mail, I can guarantee if they give you a spreadsheet, it will be in Excel, because they will have the license for those ones. So it's very much like the common one, but also I say there's some information on there for helping people learn how to do it. There is one about video calling. We've got online shopping, and also about how to use public services online. So the Learn My Way website is a really good place to start. But also, if it turns out that, well, actually, I'm fine using a computer, but I'd like to know how to do spreadsheets because I've never done them before, you can use Learn My Way and just do that one thing. Or if there's just one thing you want to learn how to do, it's really good. I describe it as a pick and mix. You don't have to start at the beginning and work your way through. You can just nip in, do the one thing you wanted to do and come out, or you can start at the beginning and do every single subject and do them all over and over if that's what works for you. You get the option to do whichever one works best. Now I'm going to see if I can get to my next window, because I've got the bit from Zoom at the top, which is now kind of covering the bit of the screen that I wanted. There. Right, so the next one I'm going to introduce you to is something called the Idea Award. Okay. Now, the Idea Award is designed to, if you're at the very, very beginning and you're not used to using a computer at all, then Idea can possibly be a little bit overwhelming. But if you're quite comfortable using a computer and visiting a website, the Idea Award is made up of lots and lots of different little mini projects, little mini things that you can learn. So you can see on the screen, it tells you about these mini courses. So if you don't know what Bitcoin is, it will tell you what Bitcoin is. It will tell you what blockchain is, but also it has some other things like how to do some graphic things and some little mini coding things. But also there's a lot of other things, but there's a lot of choice. And essentially what it does is you work your way through and you collect points. And once you've collected enough points in different areas, you can actually get yourself what we call like a bronze award. So you have to do so many in so many different areas. But as you go around, you collect your badges, and they're all like little tiny training courses where they teach you a little bit of something that's connected to digital, but in lots of different areas. And you can pick which ones you want to do. And then when you've got enough, you can actually get a certificate that says you've now got your Idea Bronze Award. Or you can keep going after that, and they have like a silver award and there's a gold award. But if that's something that you're interested in doing, And also, let's say you get a certificate. It's something you could actually put on a CV if you wanted to. So that's the second one. I've realised I'm sort of lagging slightly behind, so I'm going to speed up a little tiny bit. Now, this one is called Google Digital Garage. Now, Google, obviously, you can't really avoid them when you talk about digital because they are everywhere. But one of the brilliant things that they do is they do a lot of free online training. And so none of it costs you anything. It's all quite well made, and it helps you with lots of different digital skills. So if, for example, if you've got a small business and you wanted to learn a little bit more about, perhaps if you've got a website, it can give you some information, some tips about that. If you've got a website and you want to know how to count, sort of like how many people visit it, that's called analytics, and Google actually offer a free product that does that. But this is one of the ways that they can teach you about it. So some of it is quite general information, but always about digital skills. But some of it, even it can be quite, a lot of it does get quite in depth because a lot of their tools are designed for people running businesses. But you get to learn at your own pace. Again, you can dip in and out. So I've got a Google Digital account. You can go on, you can spend time on there. You can leave it for a year and come back and it'll still have kept hold of where you were up to. But also, if you get enough of them, you can get certification, which again, if you're looking for perhaps to change jobs or to add things to your CV, it's free training and it's quite decent quality. But also, because Google are as huge as they are, if you were going to work for somebody else and you were going to do anything at all with a digital background, understanding all the stuff beyond actually visiting websites can be really, really helpful, because it means that you understand a little bit of a lot of stuff. And sometimes there's a lot of people out there who know the basics, and this is a free way to sort of learn a little bit more. So things like where on the screen where it's talking about building a strong online strategy, I build websites for a living. That's kind of the main part of my day job. And there are a lot of people with small businesses and sometimes bigger businesses who think that, right, we spend money, we buy a website, and then we just leave it on the internet and it will somehow bring us customers and make us money. Yeah, I'd love to say that they build it and they will come as a thing. It really isn't. Even the world's best website needs you to keep an eye on it. It needs you to tell people it's there. It needs to be sort of presented in the right way. And Google are here offering people free training. So if you've got friends or family with their own small businesses who have been perhaps trying to do some of this stuff by themselves, again, it's a brilliant free resource where you can learn in your own time whenever sort of suits you. So a lot of it is like small videos, extra little things, and then there'll be like little quizzes at the end. I can't believe that this thing at the top is very, oh, yeah. See, learn something new every day. Turns out I can just move it. I was whinging about nothing. Okay. The next one is WordPress. Now, WordPress, I'm a massive fan of WordPress. Mainly because I've been involved sort of with the WordPress community in terms of running conferences called WordCamps. And the wonderful thing about WordPress is that if you're a techie and you're one of these where you've been writing code for years, there's things that you can do with WordPress. But if on the other hand, you've decided, actually, I've taken up a new hobby and I just want to write a blog and just tell my friends what I'm doing, and I just want to do that once a week and then share it on the internet, you can do that. And you don't need to have any particular skills. You don't have to learn to code. You can build your own website. You can write your own blog. And again, WordPress is free. I'm a massive fan of offering people ways to do things that don't cost them money. I feel like I've moved this now and I've moved it to a stupid place. I'm going to put it back up there. So this is a site that I built in literally about half an hour, if that, using wordpress.com. And it is literally, you can get started with WordPress in a matter of minutes. So it won't necessarily be the world's best site. It won't necessarily be fantastic, but it is always free. It's fairly straightforward to get started with. And it means that you've got an opportunity to be able to share information with people. Now, with WordPress, you can use it in lots of different ways. So I've picked the free version that you can get that includes the hosting, and you don't have to think about sorting yourself out with the web domain. But you can also use WordPress to build massive websites with, and that's one of the things that I generally do with a lot of clients. If I'm talking to a small business and they want to be able to update their website themselves, well, I'm not going to make them go away and learn how to write 3 different types of code to do that. Usually I would try and build it on something like WordPress that gives them the bit that everybody can see, but that also has an admin panel that only they can see, so that they can add their own content to it, they can update things, they can change it. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. But also, I mean, you could even be running an online shop and you can do that using WordPress as well. So massive fan of WordPress. And later in the year, I'm planning on running some sessions to help people who perhaps want to build their own websites. So although usually as a web developer, I should be saying, come and see Auntie Claire and pay me to do it, there's a lot of people who just like the idea of doing it themselves. And it's always nice, for me, it's always nice to have a human being who can point in the right direction. So if that's something you're interested in, then that's something I'm planning on doing later this year. Now, for those of you who are really decided that, yeah, digital is definitely the thing for me, one of the things that I found really, really useful when I got started actually working in digital, which I didn't do until I was like my very late 30s, early 40s, 42 I was when I graduated from uni. Code and Stuff is a network for women and sort of non-binary developers and people who are new to writing code. It's based in Manchester. So usually what they would do is once a week, you'd literally turn up with your laptop tucked under your arm, and there will be actual people in the room with you who will go through projects, or if you're trying to do something particular, or if you've got stuck, there's actual other female developers there who can help you. Now, as much as I love men, the lovely creatures, I'm married to one, I've got brothers, all of that, blokes are great. But the problem for a lot of people with tech is that because there are so many more men working in technology than women, particularly in things like web development, quite often you can go along to an event and you might be maybe the only woman or one of a small number of women. And that's not always ideal when you're starting out. So if you're one of those people where actually you would find it off-putting to walk into a room that's maybe got lots of people, especially when you're new, walking into a room where everybody else seems to know what's going on is already daunting enough. Once you start adding in a few differences where, oh, actually, I'm the only girl, or, oh, actually, I'm the only person who's over 40, or, oh, actually, I'm the only person of colour in the room, it can just be that extra thing that gets in the way. So being able to kind of find your tribe, I mean, I know it gets used an awful lot, that expression, but it is really useful. So I'm one of the mentors for Code and Stuff. So this little person in the corner there, that's actually one of my daughters, because I was over here somewhere kind of getting ready to sort of present a session. But the idea of actually being able to go and show somebody your code when you get started is really useful. So if that's something that either you or somebody you know is interested in, I can absolutely introduce you to the Code and Stuff team, because they are wonderful and they're lovely. So there's me. But Faye, this lady here, she's the girl who sort of started it all off. I think at the moment she works for like the DWP as a software engineer. So although when we think of web developers, we tend to think, oh yeah, it's going to be some bloke from Silicon Valley. Well, sometimes web developers look like Faye, or they look like me, or they look like Kelly. Web developers come in all different shapes and sizes. And there is definitely an issue around sort of diversity in tech, but there's more of us about than you think. So if you or somebody you know is interested in, actually, I'd like to learn to code. Firstly, this idea that you have to be young, that's not a thing. I went to university when I was 38, and when I graduated at 42, I kind of took my kids to my graduation, whereas everyone else was there with their mum and dad. So being a mature student is absolutely a thing. And tech is one of those things that even if you don't want to do it formally at a college or at a uni, there's a lot of things that you can learn at home by yourself. But it's always good to be part of a network, because they can introduce you to things. you've got someone to help you when you get stuck. And I'm a massive fan of all of that. So that's Code and Stuff, who love them to bits. So again, going down the code route, this is an organisation called Free Code Camp. So essentially what they do is they teach people how to write code. So everything that you do with a computer, even when you don't need to do anything very complicated, somebody somewhere has written that code, someone's designed it, somebody's done all of those things. So there are so many different things now, and as digital has become the all-encompassing thing that it is, there's definitely a lot of opportunities sort of for work or for hobbies, depending on what kind of things you like. And Free Code Camp is a way that you can actually get not just kind of, oh yeah, I've done this course, but they will actually teach you all the information. So if you wanted to get a job at the BBC as a software engineer, this can help you get started to do that. And it is completely 100% free. It can be a little bit harder to do it yourself because you're sort of there. But the good thing with Free Code Camp is that they will organise lots of sort of group activities. And again, they're another one where without COVID, they've actually got like weekly drop-ins where you can go with your laptop tucked under your arm and somebody will help you write your code. So if all of these things here, if you've never heard of Python and you don't know what HTML is and you've heard of JavaScript, but you'd love to know a bit more, all of those things are there and they're all available. So as I said about sort of this session, digital being anything or everything. So if you are at the very beginning and you're only just starting to even use a computer, there's something we can help you with. But if on the other hand, it's like, actually, I'd like to be writing my own apps, I want to build my own websites, I'd like to start a blog, we can help you with that as well, because there is literally anything and everything out there.